Welcome in to the Ravens Rundown, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. So glad to have you with us as we look back on the Ravens' 27-22 win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the second straight win for your Baltimore Ravens. We will break it down and give you my analysis and react to the Ravens' victory on Thursday Night Football in just one moment. Before we do, though, the way we celebrate things around here on the Ravens Rundown after a victory, no better way than subbing for dubs here. If you loved what you saw from your Ravens, if you're looking for more Baltimore Ravens content, there's no better place to be than right here on the Ravens Rundowns. We cover your team each and every day with daily Baltimore Ravens news and rumors, post-game analysis. Here I am. It's a Thursday night. I'm at home, still bringing you coverage. Why? Because we're built different around here. We're not waiting until we get back in the studio tomorrow morning or anything like that. I had to bring you this post-game coverage now from my own home to react to this Ravens win. So, if you're a real one, do me a big favor. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss a moment of the latest happenings with the Baltimore Ravens. Sub for dubs if you like that victory today. And join us each and every day here on the Ravens Rundown. The Ravens win it 27-22 over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs have had their fair share of problems this season, and Tom Brady is 2 games under 500 as a starter for the first time in his career. But the story for this game for the Ravens, despite how good of a win it was and the way that they were able to finish this game, that they were able to hold things down in the fourth quarter. That was some positive momentum for sure to be able to do what they did. But the story that overshadows kind of all of that is the injury situation for this Ravens team. Rashod Bateman left the game with a foot injury. Mark Andrews left the game with a shoulder injury. Gus Edwards left the game with a hamstring injury. And Kyle Hamilton left the game with an ankle/foot injury that was caused actually by Chuck Clark at the end of the game there. And then Marlon Humphrey also left the game. He did come back, though, with a hamstring injury. We did see him slide in and play the slot a bit. But nonetheless, this game, it was big for the Ravens to get the win, no doubt, but it didn't come without a cost. There was a lot of sacrifice in this win for the Ravens here in this situation. Look, you'll take the win any way you can get it, but what a brutal beating this team took of the injuries that they suffered, and it's par for the course for this Ravens team. We've talked about it over the last 2 years, that this team has been just beaten up, that they can't catch a break. So much bad luck this team has had to endure with the injuries that they've dealt with. So I feel for this Ravens team, what they've had to deal with. These injuries continue to pile up. It's unfortunate. And when we get more updates, when we hear more from John Harbaugh and this coaching staff, what's going on with these injuries, you'll be the first to know here on the Ravens Rundown. We'll bring you an update tomorrow on what's going on with these injury situations. But as of right now, those guys all left the game with injuries. Let me go through that one more time for you. Rashod Bateman with a foot injury, Mark Andrews with a shoulder injury, Gus Edwards with a hamstring injury, Kyle Hamilton with an ankle/foot injury, and then Marlon Humphrey left the game with a hamstring injury. He did come back in and play, though. So, with that, what is your one-word reaction to this game? You got the win. That was great. But then the injuries, too. It's like, oh. I would say my one word is bittersweet. I mean, you enjoyed it. You got the win, but it came with a price, a sacrifice. I mean, this team just can't catch a break right now. So, that's my one word. What's your one word? Let me know in the comments section. You might get an ad break. If so, take advantage of it and tell me what your one word is to describe the Ravens' performance in this win against the Buccaneers. Moving on now, let's talk about Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson had a very good game, going 27 of 38 through the air for 238 yards and 2 touchdowns. A nice bounce-back performance from him. He also had 43 rushing yards on the ground as well. And the big thing for Lamar, this was the second straight game that Lamar did not turn the football over. He was averaging about a turnover a game to begin the season. In the last 2 games, Lamar has done a better job of taking care of the football. Now, last week he didn't play great, but he didn't turn it over. This week, we had the combination of Lamar looking good, but also taking care of the football as well. The Ravens need to see more of that going forward from their franchise quarterback. As far as the run game goes, besides the 43 yards from Lamar Jackson, with Gus Edwards getting hurt, and the Gus bus, I got to tell you, has been really good in those 2 games since he's played, and hopefully Gus is okay, but Gus looked good again. 11 carries, 65 yards before the injury that he suffered, and, has been a force to be reckoned with. I've been impressed to see the way that Gus came back from injury after not playing for nearly 2 years. The way he had performed these last 2 weeks, he looked really good. But then Kenyan Drake also played well. 7 carries, 62 yards. I liked what I saw from Kenyan Drake. He also had a receiving touchdown as well. 4 catches, 5 yards for Kenyan Drake. And then Justice Hill. Here's a guy that had a fumble last week. And Justice Hill, all offseason was on the verge of getting cut, but then a few injuries went a few different directions, and he found a way on that final 53-man roster spot. He's still around, and Justice Hill finishes with 4 carries for 28 yards. So I liked what I saw from the run game on that front. Receiving-wise, Isaiah Likely was just phenomenal. And I want to talk more about Isaiah Likely coming up here in just one moment. Before we get to that, though, who was your MVP for the Ravens against the Buccaneers? If you had to name one player, whether it was Lamar Jackson, whether it was Isaiah Likely, maybe it was defensively with Justin Houston. I'll talk about him in just a second. Give me your MVP for the Ravens' performance against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Just give me one name, drop it in the comment section below of who that MVP was. Let's talk about Isaiah Likely now. 6 catches, 77 yards, and a touchdown. Mark Andrews goes down, and Isaiah Likely looked like the player that we all saw in the preseason. Isaiah Likely was unstoppable this preseason, and we hadn't seen that same player since. And if he just showed a little bit of what he saw in the preseason, then watch out. There was something there that showed that he was going to be special. And tonight was that breakout performance for Isaiah Likely. I loved what he brought to the table with those 6 catches, 77 yards, and a touchdown, 7 targets his way, averaged close to 13 yards a reception. And he didn't even look like a tight end out there. He looked like a receiver. I was very impressed. Mark Andrews goes down. Isaiah Likely was ready to go and played really good. His breakout performance, I'm excited about him and his future, what he brings to the Ravens going forward. Demarcus Robinson. One thing I saw from D-Rob that I was impressed with was his route running, that he was able to kind of cut through traffic a bit, more so than what we've seen typically throughout his career. That was a good sign. He had a good night, 6 catches for 64 yards in his performance. And then Devin Duvernay. Not only did Duvernay have 4 catches for 31 yards, but Duvernay also had 2 carries for 33 yards and a touchdown run, showing his versatility. I loved that from Devin Duvernay, that he could do kind of a little bit of everything in that sense. Really good stuff there from Devin Duvernay as far as that goes. So that's the offensive breakdown for the Ravens. I'll say one more thing. The offensive line did struggle at times. They got better as the game went along, but, there was times early in that first half, Lamar just did not have hardly any time to throw. I was a little disappointed in Ronnie Stanley and some of those guys early on, but they got better as the game went. So that's a positive there as far as I'm concerned, is where they got compared to where they started this football game. Defensive breakdown in just a moment. Before we do, though, scale the defense for me in the comments section based on their performance. Before I tell you what I think, tell me what you think about what the defense for the Ravens did. Scale it for me 1 through 10 in the comments section, how you would rate the defensive performance from the Baltimore Ravens tonight in this win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So the defense for this Ravens team, we were all over this group after that Week 2 performance against the Dolphins when they gave up just a hell of a lot of yards and 42 points against that Dolphins team. Since that game, the Ravens defense has not given up more than 26 points since that game. They have made tremendous improvements. And tonight, they did a really good job of containing this Buccaneers team. Look, let's be real with you. The Buccaneers cannot run the football. And the Ravens did a really good job of slowing down that run game, holding the Bucs to 44 yards on the ground. The run defense for the Ravens was really good. And then when you talk about the pass rush of what this group was able to do to get pressure on Tom Brady, I mean, Justin Houston, here's a guy that's 33 years old, okay? And he picked up his 6th sack in 5 games. He had 2 tonight on Tom Brady. And on top of that, Tom Brady also broke the NFL record for most times sacked in league history. And Justin Houston got to be the one that delivered that sack. So that was a pretty cool moment. I liked what I saw on that front there when it comes to that defense. In particular, the run defense and then what Justin Houston did, that was really good. Geno Stone led the team in tackles. He had 6 tackles and a pass deflection. And the defense, I got to tell you, has made tremendous improvements from what they were just even a few weeks ago at this point. So now the Ravens sit with their record at 5-3. They remain in first place atop the AFC North. Get a few extra days off from playing on Thursday Night Football. Next up for the Ravens, they will take on the New Orleans Saints. That game will take place on Monday Night Football on November 7th. That's crazy. I mean, we haven't got to Halloween yet, and we're talking about this team playing well into November, the 7th day of November, and then you get the bye week. So for this Ravens team that's dealt with a lot of injuries already this year, and then those that piled up this evening, I'll say this, the silver lining in this next stretch, this next 3 weeks, is a lot of time off. You have 10 days between now and your next game, and then you got a bye week after that before your next game there. So there's time for this team to rest, get healthy. They need it as they get this push towards the second half of the season. Saints coming up, then you take on the Panthers, then you take on the Jags and the Broncos, and then the Steelers. The schedule gets a lot easier over these next few weeks here for this Ravens team. Ravens get the win. Final score, 27-22. Thanks for joining us here on the Ravens Rundown today. As always, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at Tyler Jones Live, talking about your Baltimore Ravens on those social media platforms all the time. We'll have a more comprehensive breakdown of the latest Ravens injury update coming up tomorrow here on the Ravens Rundown. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.